So I think we heard a lot of really interesting themes, some huge topics, but there was obviously a theme of the business value, the business case, and the business value from going faster, going at a science-based pace of change. And that, I agree with that, obviously, and it's wonderful this creates business value, but it's going to be critical that the investment community agree with that and think that it creates business value. So now we're going to hear from one of the senior executives of the investment community, Mr. Stuart Thomson Gulliver, the Group Chief Executive of HSBC Holdings. Thank you, sir.
Thanks very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So I'm going to talk about finance and the role that finance has to play in meeting this challenge, both from the point of view of investors, and I was fortunate to listen to the last panel because I was behind the stage here, and from the point of view of intermediaries such as HSBC. So it's a great honor to be here for what we all hope will be an historic turning point in the fight against climate change. And as you all know, a universal climate agreement seems finally to be within reach, and our role as banks and investors is to help interpret and implement that agreement. Now, this is a long road, which starts rather than ends here in Paris, and which requires a genuine partnership across public and private sectors, new and old industries, and developed and developing markets to reach the desired destination. And the dialogue that we've all shared today will play a small but important role in charting that course. So let me report back on the role of investors. This afternoon has demonstrated a growing consensus on many of the necessary steps to increase low-carbon investment. And the breakout sessions highlighted in particular the critical importance of multilateral development banks like the IFC and the public sector more generally in boosting risk-sharing capacity to create investment opportunities in emerging markets in particular. The role of capital markets in distributing that risk, and the role as banks such as HSBC in distributing that risk and underwriting it, and the power of investors to demand increased transparency, very much symbolized or underpinned by the Montreal Pledge, and robust reporting from portfolio companies as a key driver to encourage and incentivize better behavior from the world's biggest businesses. Now, these are all important contributions that emphasize the importance of providing the right signals and incentives to get investment to the right places, and the obligation that we all share to provide investors with the low-carbon options that they actually do need and want. And this does matter because investors continue to be at the vanguard of the march towards carbon neutrality. The assets under management by the signatories of the UN Principles for Responsible Investment total around $60 trillion US, which is roughly equivalent to the International Energy Agency's estimate of the investment required in energy supply and efficiency between now and 2035. So it's not a question of the amount of money, it's a question of redirecting it. In other words, the capital is available, but investors need help to allocate finance to low-carbon projects. In my view, this is as big a moment as probably the building of the railways was, or the dot-com boom. This is a watershed moment. This is a moment where the financing industry in its broadest definition, banks, investors, pension funds, asset managers, need to step up to a massive financing challenge and opportunity. There is a growing body of evidence that investors respond positively when presented with a compelling low-carbon investment case, and that they're increasingly driving the change that they want to see. Over the last 10 years, we have helped our clients break new ground in the green bond markets in Europe and Asia, and we've also financed some of the biggest carbon-friendly infrastructure projects in the world, which is why we're here and are being represented actually throughout all of the days of this conference. In November, we ourselves issued our first green bond and raised 500 million euros specifically to finance sustainable investment. That bond issue was 4 times oversubscribed. And 10 days earlier, we committed to invest $1 billion of our balance sheet in high-quality liquid assets covering a range of low-carbon initiatives. All of these things were driven as much by the demands of our clients as by our determination to do the right thing. And our clients tell us that they want to do more and more to reduce their own carbon footprint. It is this commitment to change that's propelled the low-carbon debate forward, which increases the obligation to provide those willing to take positive steps to lower their emissions. In recent years, though, banks and investors have come under pressure to withdraw finance from carbon-intensive sectors altogether. I don't agree that this is the right thing to do. We should not leave fossil fuel-dependent sectors behind, not least because the capacity to reduce their carbon emissions exists and can be realized with the help of banks, investor pressure, and the right incentives. We have to work with clients and support them through a just and orderly transition, not simply to walk away and ignore the problem. Governments and businesses must therefore work together to reduce the flow of finance to a high-carbon economy in a way that creates a smooth transition to a low-carbon future. Over the last 2 years, I've observed a very positive shift in the tone of the debate around low-carbon investment, a great deal of which was driven by the demands of the investment community. It's our responsibility as regulators, policymakers, or as financial institutions to act on these demands and provide investors and businesses with a line of sight to plan their own transition to carbon neutrality and the clarity to make informed investment decisions. We stand ready to play our full part, and we look forward to working with all of you to build the low-carbon future for which everyone here is committed to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gulliver.